let's talk about something huge if you've ever worked in a restaurant: your rights. It can feel like a maze, right? Well, in this explainer, we're going to break it all down into a super clear, methodical guide that you can actually use.
So let's just jump right in with something I bet a lot of you have heard before. This line, it's one of the most common things managers say to restaurant workers. And you know what? Almost every single time, it's totally illegal.
This one definitely sounded familiar to a guy named Marcus. He was a server, really good at his job, but his manager was constantly pushing him to, work off the clock. He put in 45 hours, but his paycheck only showed 40. On top of that, he started noticing the restaurant was taking a cut of the tips, which just felt wrong. But he figured, hey, that's just the restaurant business, right? Turns out, he was dead wrong.
And here's the thing, Marcus's story isn't some rare exception. It's pretty much the norm. Get this, the U.S. Department of Labor looked into more than 9,000 restaurants, and what they found is just staggering. 84% of them were breaking wage laws. So we're not talking about a few bad apples here. This is a huge systemic problem, It's made worse by high turnover and payroll systems that can be, let's just say, a little messy.
Okay, so the most important thing is knowing what to actually look for. That's why we're going to put together a methodical toolkit for you, starting with the absolute most common ways that restaurant workers get shorted on their pay.
All right, these are the big 5 you really need to watch out for. First, working off the clock. Second, getting denied overtime pay. Third, illegal stuff happening with your tips. Then there's something called the 80/20 rule, which we'll get into. And finally, having to pay for your own uniform if it pushes your wages below the minimum. Let's dig into a couple of these, because they can be a little tricky.
Okay, tipping. Man, this can get confusing fast, so let's just make it super simple. Legal versus illegal. A legal tip pool is only for the folks who get tips, servers, bartenders, bussers. What's always illegal is when managers, the owners, or the house takes even a single penny of those tips. And they also can't make you share your tips with people who don't get tips, like the kitchen manager or the cooks.
Okay, another one that gets really murky is this thing called the 80/20 rule. Think about it. You get paid that lower tipped minimum wage because, you're earning tips serving customers. But what about all that other stuff you do? The side work, rolling silverware, cleaning, stocking the bar. How does that fit in? Well, this right here shows you the balance that the law requires.
So here's the rule, plain and simple. At least 80% of your time has to be spent doing stuff that actually earns your tips. If you end up spending more than 20% of your shift doing side work, your boss legally has to pay you the full, regular minimum wage, not the tipped wage for all of that extra time.
All right, so you're seeing some red flags. Maybe it's about your tips, or maybe you're spending way too much time doing side work. The big question is, now what? Well, this is where knowing your rights really turns into power. Let's walk through a really simple, methodical 3-step plan for how you can actually do something about it.
It all comes down to these 3 things. Step 1, document everything. You got to be your own best witness. Step 2, report it. You need to know who to call. And step 3, protect yourself. You have to know that the law is on your side when you speak up.
Okay, step 1, document. Seriously, this is your #1 weapon. You have to be methodical about this. Grab a little notebook or use an app on your phone and just start tracking everything. Your exact start time, your end time, how much you made in tips each shift. Write down any time a manager asks you to work off the clock. And for sure, save every single pay stub. Look, feeling like you're getting ripped off is one thing, but having the actual data, that's proof they can't argue with.
I really can't say this enough. When it comes down to your word against theirs, the person who has the detailed, consistent records wins. That's your proof. That's how you build your case.
All right, step 2. Who do you actually report this to? I know it can seem super intimidating, but it's actually pretty simple. If it's about your pay or your tips, you call the Department of Labor. If you're dealing with harassment or discrimination, that's the EEOC. And if it's about safety, that's OSHA. These agencies are literally there to help you enforce these laws.
And your rights don't just stop at your paycheck. Not at all. A really, really important piece of this is knowing that you are legally protected from any kind of punishment just for standing up for yourself.
The official word for it is retaliation, and the law is crystal clear on this. Your boss cannot punish you for filing a complaint about your wages or for reporting harassment. It's illegal, and knowing that is what should give you the confidence to actually say something.
So what does retaliation even look like in the real world? Well, sometimes it's super obvious, right? Like you complain, and a week later, you're fired. But a lot of the time, it's sneakier. All of a sudden, you're only getting the worst shifts, where your hours get cut way back, Or maybe you start getting these bad performance reviews that make no sense. Guess what? All of that is also illegal retaliation.
And please, listen to this part because it is so important. These protections for fair pay, for a safe workplace, and against retaliation, they apply to every single worker. It does not matter what your immigration status is. It does not matter how well you speak English. Your rights are your rights, period.
Okay, let's circle all the way back to Marcus. What actually happened when he stopped just, putting up with it and decided to follow this methodical action plan we've been talking about? Well, he followed the steps. Exactly. For 2 straight months, he was super methodical. He documented every single minute he worked off the clock, every hour of overtime they didn't pay him. Then he took all that proof and filed a complaint with the Department of Labor. And just like they're supposed to, the DOL investigated and, yep, they found clear violations.
And here's the best part. The result? The restaurant was ordered to pay Marcus $4,200 in back pay, money that he had earned. And it gets even better. Because he spoke up, 5 of his coworkers also got back pay that they were owed.
So let's be real clear about what happened here. The restaurant didn't just have a change of heart and decide to be fair. No, they were forced to follow the law. The only thing that changed was that one guy, Marcus, took the time to learn his rights and then had the courage to follow a methodical plan to stand up for them.
So what are your action items? What can you do right now? First, start that work log today. Seriously, even if you think everything's fine. Second, save those numbers for the Department of Labor and the EEOC right into your phone. And third, just remember, you are almost definitely not the only person at your job dealing with this.
In the end, it all boils down to this. Your rights aren't just words on a piece of paper. They are real and they are enforceable. The whole system is there to back you up, but it has to start with you. Your rights are real. Are you ready to claim them?